This is the Creative Market Free Goods Roundup for the week of August 11th, 2014. There's 6 different free items today, and all of them are free this week only. So if you think you'll have use for any of these different goods that I'm going over, be sure to check out the description where I'll place links to each one of them. I'm going to start at the top here, and these 3 free goods are available right on Creative Market. I'm going to go left to right here and start with Hero Images for Website. This file is provided in Photoshop format, and there's 8 different files to choose from inside, so I'm just going to go through all 8 of them. And something to note with these, the actual image right here, which I changed out to be my logo, can be replaced using the smart object right here on your screen. So to do that, you just double click on that smart object and hit OK when this prompt comes up, and then it'll bring you to the screen. Originally, it'll show this image right here, which is like a placeholder that they put in there, but you can go ahead and drag and drop, or just go to File and then Place, and drop any image you want in there and go ahead and use that. And once you save this actual smart object right here and then close out, you'll see that it's updated in all these different files. So there's 8 different files to choose from, and all of them feature the same MacBook Pro right here on the bottom, but the outer edge items of these will change. And it's also something to note that the actual background image is a real photo, so these objects aren't repositionable or removable, although you could Photoshop in new objects if you really wanted to do that. This one is a flat image since these are actual product shots and not 3D renders or something like that. So there's quite a few different images to pick from here, and the actual image size here is roughly 4200 by 2800 pixels, so they're really large. They should be pretty much big enough for anything you want to throw this at. So that's a really big plus. You won't have to worry about these being a bit too small for pretty much any web application, or even a lot of print applications as well. And once again, to replace these, just open up this folder right here that says replace with your screenshot, and double click on that smart object, and it'll bring up right here. You go ahead and change this to whatever you want, and then just save it and close it, and it will update that particular items page. So this is a really nice pack, very high quality, and if you have need for some hero images like these for your websites or whatever project you're working on, definitely check this one out. And next up is Chain Shield and Badges. I have Illustrator open to show this pack, and that's how many of these files are provided, although some of the files are provided as PNGs, like these frames right here, and the actual elements used have a JPEG inside, and there's also a Photoshop file of the frames, so you can kind of use those, although most of the badges are just Illustrator, so do keep that in mind. And this pack really is absolutely massive, so I'm just going to go through a few of the different options here. It has 20 different badges included, like the ones right here, as well as 25 different elements, such as the pistons shown in this badge, and also 30 chain frames to choose from. So this pack has a huge assortment of things, so you can kind of customize, mix and match, and really make a bunch of custom stuff, or just go ahead and use the pre-made elements like this right here. Something to note with this pack, it uses 2 different fonts, one of which is called Stainy, which is a free script font right here, pretty nice script font, and the other font used right here is called Brothers Bold, and it links to a My Fonts page. And I believe that font perhaps at one time was free, but it is no longer free. It's now $50. So do keep that in mind if you want to use this particular type, that you'll have to pay $50 to get it, unless of course you already own it or got it when it was still free. And here's another badge, and as you can see, all the layouts on these are really well done, nicely executed, and they all use the chain as the primary focus of the frame right here. And here's an Illustrator file with all the different elements used throughout the badges. So here's everything you need to mix and match and create custom designs of your own. And also included is a very large selection of badge frames. I'll just kind of zoom in and look at all these, but there's 30 of them to choose from. They're all executed extremely well. They look great. So absolutely huge pack to choose from right here. I could see just this being its own pack on its own and still being a pretty good deal. So it's nice to see that there's so much included in this pack. So if you think you'll have use for either the frames, all these different elements, or even the pre-made badges right here, which all look fantastic, definitely recommend checking this one out. It's a huge assortment of really high quality goods. It's very impressive to see this offered as a free good. And next we have Sketchnote Dingbats. I'm showing this font in Illustrator since it's a pretty easy way to very quickly go through what's included here. And it's a really fantastic set of hand-drawn looking glyphs and dingbats. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can kind of get a little bit closer look here. I particularly love the type. The hand-drawn look on this is absolutely fantastic. That ampersand is really cool. Nice little R2-D2 and lightsaber always comes in handy. It has a really great hand-drawn look without looking messy at all, which is always a nice plus in professional work. A huge selection of icons here for a bunch of different stuff, and I think it's all executed really fantastically. And also something to kind of note about this font, they actually do sell an entire font with all the different letters as well, if this is really something that you're excited about. So you can check out this particular shop owner's page if that's something you might want to consider picking up. But as a whole, I really like this pack. It's a really nice selection of glyphs with a few different illustrations that might come in handy for various projects you're working on. And if you want to see the entire listing of everything that's included here, just highlight over some text and then go to Type and then Glyphs. And you can see now the entire glyph page for all the different icons that are included. So if I go into this actual working here and I double click on this pie icon, you can see it pastes it right there for me. So that's kind of a quick way to see everything that's in this pack without having to type through all the different letters. but a really fantastic pack, and I definitely recommend picking this one up. And I'd also recommend looking at the full font family because I really love the hand-drawn style of this font. And these bottom 3 goods are free on Facebook, so just hit this free on Facebook button and like Creative Market on Facebook. And once you do that, a download link will appear. It's super easy to do, and then you can just download it right off Facebook. So next we have Vintage Floral Photoshop brush set. I have Photoshop open here to show these brushes, but it is also included as PNG files if you prefer to work that way. And the PNG files also have a transparent background, so they're nice and quick and easy to work with. I have a few different layers here showing the 10 different brushes included. So here's 3, and here's the next 3. As you can tell, all these flowers are pretty neat, and as you can see, they're all quite a bit different looking. So as you have 10 different flower brushes to choose from, you won't have to worry about them being all almost the same thing and not have enough versatility or variety. If I zoom in on these actually have a really interesting texture that I can't quite put my finger on. It looks almost like it might have been scanned from a really old source of book or perhaps fabric, because it does say fabric in the actual description. So maybe that's what they did, which if they did do that, that's really impressive. They cleaned them up this nice. But the end result is a pretty fascinating texture in all these, so definitely check that out when you're looking at these brushes in use. And the size of the brushes ranges from about 1250 pixels to about 2500 pixels. So they're quite large, but not absolutely huge. So kind of keep that in mind when you're working with them. And they're super fast and easy to use. If I just very quickly open up a new layer here and click the brush, you can see it applies really quickly, and I can just change this to be whatever color I want. So let's say I just pick a blue right here and pop it again. And as you can see, it does a really nice job of quickly applying that. And I'll change the actual flower brush here too, and maybe make this just a little bit darker, overlap them, so you can kind of see how that effect works out as I zoom in. You actually end up getting some really interesting transparency effects going on. So I just did this very quick, but if you spend some time carefully laying these out, you might get some really fascinating results. So I definitely recommend trying to play around with that and use the transparency to your advantage when you're creating work with these, because it could result in some really cool vintage screen printed poster or perhaps vintage letterpress kind of effects. You can open up an image like this one right here and then actually put the brushes over it and change the actual colors to kind of suit the image a little bit better. I'm just doing this very quickly as a rough idea for something to play around with, but you might get some really cool, interesting effects with these brushes. So these are really neat, and once again, definitely check out the textures on these. I really like different textures, and these have a very unique one. And as you can see, the end result is really easy to do, and with the use of transparency, you can get some really interesting results. So definitely pick this one up and play around with it, particularly play around with the transparencies. It's a lot of fun, and you might get some fantastic results out of it. And next up is Published, which is a responsive HTML theme for authors. And Published is a theme that's designed specifically for authors that are self-publishing. So if you happen to be an author or you're looking to get a book out there somehow, this theme is really tailor-made for you. And this is an HTML theme, so it's really helpful if you know at least the basics of HTML if you want to use this. They do also sell a WordPress theme that might be a little bit easier, but this particular one is HTML. So I'm going to load up this really quick and kind of look through here. There's a really impressive listing of shortcodes, so you can tell this is a very well thought out theme, that it has a bunch of different pre-made grids, icons, as well as maps and tabs. All the stuff you'd really expect from a premium theme have been built into this. There's a blog section with a single blog, full width blog, and a blog list. So I'll load up a single blog right here. A very standard looking blog with built-in comments. If I check out the full width blog here, you can see that it has built-in video support. It looks really fantastic. If you have like an intro video for whatever you're doing, that's a really, really nice plus, as well as built-in comments in this as well. And then if you look at the blog list, it's back to a more standard just blog listing right here. There's also a books page where you can look at either a single book. So if you're showcasing a particular book, you can see that it has the type here, a nice little image slot, and then places to buy it, Barnes & Noble and Amazon, as well as a book list, which you can show multiple books if you're working on this. And it should be noted that you could really apply this to more than just books. You could swap out all the book content with a particular product or artwork. It should work just as fine for that as well. So don't worry about that a whole bunch. If books aren't your thing, just tailor make this to suit whatever you're doing. As you can see in the bottom here, little links here, as well as a Flickr feed and built-in Twitter support, all the social icons at the bottom. It does say a WordPress theme for authors at the bottom, but remember that this is an HTML, not a WordPress theme. There's a contact page with a nice big map on it, as well as contact form. And I'll just quickly showcase the responsive design of this, make this window smaller and kind of shrink it up. You can see that the responsive theme works really well. There's a nice built-in menu right here, and everything seems to be transitioning pretty good as you transition from a very small to larger, more standard viewing. So this theme seems to be working really well. I wasn't able to discover any bugs while I was browsing it, which is always a big plus because sometimes you do run into those. And if you are an author, this is really tailor-made for you. And if you're not, remember that you can just switch out all this content to kind of suit your needs if you're comfortable with HTML. Really nice theme. Definitely check it out. And last we have geometry backgrounds. Files included are in EPS as well as JPEG format, so I have this open in Illustrator to show these. And it's actually pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to kind of quickly go through the 6 different supplied images so you can kind of see how these backgrounds look. Something to really note with these, there's some really interesting color combinations and really subtle gradations, so kind of keep that in mind when you're going through these to use as inspiration for overall color choice and other projects you might be working on, even if you don't intend to use these actual backgrounds in what you're doing. It's always fun to really look at the colors used and how they kind of interact with each other when you have so many. Like, this is a really fascinating color combination that actually works pretty darn well in my opinion. And here's the last of the 6 right here. So it's a pretty cool pack overall, and you can select the individual sections and recolor them too if that's something you want to do to kind of customize these to suit your needs. And there's a fair amount of variation too in the actual way the geometry is handled within these. This is another fascinating, I love this color combination. It's absolutely fantastic. And because this is supplied in EPS, you can make these as big or as small as you want without losing in quality, which is always a huge plus when doing the backgrounds. Really look at some of the color combinations of these. This is just absolutely almost perfect in my opinion as far as the color choice is used. So this is definitely a cool pack, and check it out if it's something you might have some use for. That's it for this week's free goods, and remember, if any of them look like something you want to pick up, be sure to do it this week, because after that they will no longer be free. And if you found this video helpful, please like and favorite, and if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. These videos are released every Monday to let you know what's new and free at Creative Market. Thanks for watching.